What's the difference between a 3-wood and a 5-wood? Not that much actually, but in practical terms on the golf course, depending on your skill level, can be quite a big difference, especially high handicappers or slower swingers. A 3-wood has lower loft than a 5-wood. A 3-wood has 15 degrees of loft, and a 5-wood probably has between 17 and 19 degrees of loft, depending on the brand. A traditional 3-wood loft of 15 degrees is very difficult to get airborne if your swing speed is not fast enough, which also means you're trying to force the swing speed, which creates lack of your club face control, and the ball generally curves left to right on 3-woods. A 5-wood only has 4 or 5 more degrees loft than a 3-wood, but infinitely easier to hit. Just psychologically at address, when you look at a 3-wood, you look down and you see a very flat face. That automatically makes you want to help the ball up into the air if you're not skilled enough or understand how to hit a fairway wood off the grass. A 5-wood presents much more of the face when you're looking down at the club, which gives you an impression that it's wide open. You don't have to add loft to get the ball into the air. That causes you to just have more confidence to hit down on the ball and get the ball airborne the correct way using the loft of the club, instead of trying to add loft to something like a 3-wood where you feel very jittery that you can't get it in the air. An obvious difference in 3-wood and 5-wood is the shaft length. Generally you'll find a 3-wood shaft to be about 43 and a half inches, and a 5-wood to be a ½ inch to 1 inch shorter than that. The longer the shaft, the more speed you can generate, but also the less control you have. The shorter the shaft, the slightly less speed you can generate, but the more control you also have. Generally, what I would tell people is to just get rid of that 3-wood. It's not a great alternative to a driver. You probably don't have the swing speed or the perceived skill to hit the 3-wood airborne off the fairway, maybe off a tee, but generally it's not going to end well because you think it's an alternative to your driver to get the ball in play. The reality is, at most people's swing speed, hitting the 5-wood is going to be easier to hit the center of that face and just get the ball going airborne much further than a 3-wood. At such a low loft with not enough swing speed, you're going to get the ball airborne, but it's going to go very low and then land really much closer to you than something like a 5-wood. A 5-wood you're going to be able to hit nice and square, nice and solid. The thing with a 5-wood is, because it's so much easier to swing, it's a bit shorter, it's got more loft, you're going to find less curve on it, and at the same time, while it goes straighter, it's also going to carry longer than the 3-wood. At 15 degrees of loft, this ball is going to carry, but it's going to come out low. And it's going to carry maybe, let's say, 180 yards. If you took the 5-wood at the same swing speed, the same strike, because of that extra loft, the ball's going to launch higher, and because it's easier to swing, it's going to actually, at your swing speed, carry probably equivalent or further than your 3-wood. In my experience with higher handicap, slower swing players. I even used a 5-wood for probably 5 years before ever even touching a 3-wood, only when I was confident that I could get enough swing speed and get the ball airborne on a 3-wood. When selecting between a 5-wood and a 3-wood, think about your game. Is it going to add to your game, or is it just going to be a club that sits in your bag for one shot every 2 rounds? I find for me a 5-wood can help me to get to a par 4 when I'm out of position much easier, onto a par 5 in 2, or off the tee, get the ball in play easily. I find a 3-wood I can lose confidence with very quickly because of the low loft, and if my swing is off, I'm going to hit a lot of slices with this club. And on approach shots, it's very rare that I need a 3-wood to hit a green, even on a par 5. It's just too much club in terms of distance, and I can't control the flight enough to have confidence to say, yes, 250 yards, 240 yards, I'm hitting a 3-wood. I'd rather hit the 5-wood, stay 10 or 15 yards short, chip it up, and have a ball in play.